Good morning, everybody. It's Douglas coming from Cape Town, and today we are talking to Tim in Columbus in Ohio. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we have to talk about it because it's just happened. So just like with Emily, we managed to screw up the time zones again.
That's right.
And it's kind of funny because I was trying to figure out, I'm always looking, I'm the crazy kid always looking for a pattern. And when I'd given Emily the options, she'd send something back saying, how about 2 p.m. your time? And actually, that's exactly, we chatted yesterday and we said, and you said, what about 3 p.m. your time? And we just go, sure. Right. And our brain goes back through the same filter and pattern. And even though we've just chatted about time zones changing, we still manage to not have good reference points. So here we are. For me, you are 41 minutes late, and for you, right. We're 20 minutes early. It's all relative to where you are.
You know, and I so when things like this happen, and this will probably lead into our interview, of course, but I like to challenge myself to see if I will either freak out, panic, rush around, then show up to this thing unprepared. And because I had a whole plan, like I got up early this morning, I did my workout, I did my activation, I had my breakfast, then all of a sudden I get your message and I'm like, oh no. Okay, so now will I, now it's like, what, you know, I saw someone posted a comment that said, like Warren Buffett says, I'd rather have a idiot with a plan than an intelligent person with no plan, or something like that. And then I thought to myself, well, the idiot with the plan is only as good as his plan B, because something always happens. And you know,
ask any coach. You go out on your players go out onto the field with a perfect strategy, and then things don't pan out the way you wanted it to. So now what? Well, now you have to make it up on the fly. And so all your training, all your frameworks, all your communication starts to show up or shows the cracks very quickly.
That's right. Mike Tyson, he said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Absolutely.
Right. So we got punched in the face this morning, and I actually think, I was like, okay, let's see, how can you get yourself prepared in a shorter period of time for this interview to make sure it's effective for everybody. And we'll see. Only time will tell if it worked.
Absolutely. All right. So I suppose, Tim, who are you in the world of BeActivated?
That's a good question. So you and I got connected 3 or so months ago, maybe 4 months ago, through a mutual friend, Susan Bartley and Mark Bartley, which is Spud Inc. Yeah. They are very active in your community, and they linked us together because of your kind of your direction with what you were going with your model and taking it more online, trying to broadcast it in the ways that you have wanted to, but weren't quite sure how. And my background is it's digital sales and marketing. So that's essentially how we got connected. But our relationship has grown much more than just a business relationship. You know, I think we have the exact same goals with where we want to drive BeActivated and what we can do from a digital standpoint. But now this has become very important.
What's happened in 3 months? Because obviously you started, and the idea was originally we were going to have a chat, and the idea was that you were going to share with what you do for Spud Inc. And basically, when we were going through that conversation, all the learning that I'd been doing and all the courses I'd done, I'd like bombed myself out with just so much learning. And there were things that stood out clearly, and there was a whole lot of stuff that I thought was a load of rubbish. And what was awesome was the stuff that I thought was the right way to do it. You said, this is how we do it, and this is why, because a lot of people will tell you this stuff, and this is why it doesn't work. And I was like, dude, this guy's, you know, it's not like I have to sit there and try and figure it out, because we were already on the same page there. And so at that point, I'd said to you, well, come, give me a proposal, and we went from there. But it was interesting, wasn't it? Because we started with this idea of you going, okay, it's another customer, it's another person I can help with their media campaign, and then you kind of got your toes wet and then dived head first.
Exactly. So it was, the first month was as planned. I had planned to build out a strategy. We had timelines and execution dates and assets we needed to collect, and we were kind of building the foundation of how I could operate every day. And as these assets and information and videos and me getting plugged into the community so we could kind of work that, I started hearing stuff. And I was watching these, like, I wasn't even watching the videos, I was just rolling the videos kind of in the background, figuring out how to kind of put things together. And I said, oh shit, that sounded interesting. And I'm like, wait a minute, what did he just say? And then all of a sudden then this started happening more and more often. And then it got to the point where I kind of ran into a couple of roadblocks with our initial strategy, where I'm like, okay, how this is not like a normal customer where I build out traditional strategies. This is something a little bit more sophisticated and unique, which some of the same principles of digital marketing will apply.
Sophisticated and unique. Ooh, yes, use that. I haven't had the sophisticated used around me often.
Yeah, well, I think that was the right word, but
I'm taking it.
Okay, good. Yeah, and it got to the point where I'm like, I asked you, I said, I want to take some of the courses because I want to learn more about what it is that BeActivated is, and in how to best showcase this to people that are looking for something like this, as a solution. BeActivated as a solution. And I came in.
You were still in your mind doing a good due diligence, really. I suppose I better understand the product that I'm proposing to market and share to the world.
Well, here's when I came in, I knew Spud and Sue's background. I knew that they were. I've heard of RPR, but my understanding of RPR was, hey, you rub here, and it'll maximize your performance. And I've heard about RPR for years. Within the last 3 years, I've heard of RPR, and but I didn't know a whole lot about it, and I didn't have to go down that route, but it was always of interest to me. My background's I got a degree in exercise physiology. I was a personal trainer for a number of years. I own my own health club, and so this has always been of interest. But then I realized that BeActivated is much different than even RPR, right? And it's wider than you can even imagine, from the standpoint of one is positioned for sports performance, and where I'm at now with BeActivated is not only is it positioned for sports performance, but it's human optimization, like the potential that you can actually get from the techniques, right, is only limited to where you're currently at. And that's what's so fascinating about this, where it's, this is unbelievable, and it's almost so powerful that I can't quite figure out just yet the best way to broadcast this, because I think we'd all agree that this is great for everybody, but it's the best for the people that are actively searching for this solution. So that's where, you and I have our conversations where we figure out, how do we do this?
Here's always been the problem, because so I've been on the road teaching it for 16 years. And over the years, I've brought in consultants to look at the business to say, what's the right model? Because I really don't know. And they always, like, you could pay a heck of a lot of money for a consultant to come in, look at every aspect of your business. And in the end, I realized they were going to the same textbooks I'd already read, and there were about 4 or 5 different structures, and they'd always offer one of those. And I went, well, I knew that already. If it was that, I wouldn't have needed you. But we've tried, and it doesn't seem to work. And I think this is always the thing. Like, the challenge of the work is there's pretty much no place that we can't go with it. And people go, but wow, what an amazing opportunity. No, actually, it's the hardest thing because it can go anywhere, and so it's kind of like, how do you, all the programs I've done, the very first like big core concept is always, you got to find your niche. Who is your niche market? How do you make it smaller and smaller? And I've sat with like, and got hold of the guys running the courses and sat there going, show me how to find a micro niche within what I do. And we can do it like within let's say golf. Okay, so let's take it down. Here's the golf stream, and we can do that, and we can go into there. But it's almost like we can take the guys in the gym, and we can say, okay, so you want to have a one-day conversation about squatting or bench press or whatever, so that at the end you understand your body differently, and then you have tools in order to enable your body to more effectively shift through that, no matter what the obstacles or environment is that's in the way. We can do that too. Or we can be talking to a bunch of kids, 6-year-olds, and we can be taking them through a little activation game that's going to make them funky and fun and whatever.
Or you could go into a business, and say, listen, here's the goal, and here's how this can help.
Tick, tick, and all of those things have been done on a level.
Yes.
But to specialize and go like super strong into any one of those is to then at the other ones all then lose something. So which is also why the community is so important, because we can have people who are going to specialize in different areas.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And you need it, because there's this is a perfect example of digital marketing. So in digital marketing, we have to be the most effective. And this is kind of why when we had our initial conversations, I said, this is why this stuff, they talk about but doesn't work correctly, and why this is the best way to do it. And it really came down to drilling down the market and the audience. And you can have like, everyone needs soap, let's say, for instance. But if you have just a wide database and you're like, let's try to sell them soap, well, you're going to struggle. And it's when you market to everyone, you get no one. But when you market to the exact person that's actually searching, then you get exactly what you intend. And through a lot of the interviews that you've been doing on here, even the one with Grant, it's like that he was saying that where this can help everyone, it's true. But it's only for the people that are ready and want it, that it actually works. So I've noticed this within, because I've fallen in love with this. I'm like seeing the benefits firsthand. And so I'm trying to like, I'm banging the drum all around where people are like, oh, this hurts, that hurts. And I'm like, have you tried squeezing your butt? And they're like, what? And so everyone, I've seemed to have been attracting lately people that could instantly benefit from this. But when I just start talking a couple little things where I start with the breathing, and I could see I lose them almost instantly. And I'm like, okay, that person isn't quite there yet, but they will get to a point, and hopefully it's not a rock bottom point where they've exhausted everything. They're like, maybe I should talk
They've
to
done
them again.
all the classic routes. They've been to the physical
Yes,
therapist
yes,
or the physio. They've been to the chiro. They've been to for Reiki. They've been for shiatsu and acupuncture, and they've done some training and some rehab. And sometimes we're lucky, and
yep,
sometimes those things work. But I
yes,
do say lucky, like, the thing is that we know this because we talk about this a lot on our workshops, is that, we say, what is your best technique, like right now? Because it's a fashion thing. Oh, well, I like doing this. Why do you do that? Well, it's worked a few more times than the other thing. So it's almost
yes,
my new go-to technique. But what are you going to do if it doesn't work? Well, I don't really know. Do you know why it works? No, it just does seem to work. Okay, so let's say tapping on someone's head 10 times, not 11, not 9, but 10 times on someone's head. Let's say that did it. And you go, wow, okay, I'm going to do that. What's the mechanism? Well, if you could understand that maybe the tapping on the head has got nothing to do with it, that actually it's stimulating a reflex. And we've got a Teletubby point up there that we hold. It doesn't actually like being tapped, so please don't tap it, but it likes being held. But if you were doing something in that area, maybe you have influenced the autonomic nervous system. And so therefore it shifts into a different gear. So it starts to interpret itself differently and starts a healing process. And you just happen to disrupt an existing mechanism by tapping on the head or whatever. There are a lot of tap techniques out there, but a lot of that is just around disruption. And if it works, sweet. We don't care. We really are supportive of anything that gets results. And so
right,
but I think this is where we have to also be harsh. And my training as a physio, yeah, wow, it's you look at it and you go, really, this long of studying, is this what we're given? And how can you hope that this recipe is really going to be effective? And that's really what drove me into this, was sheer frustration of knowing and believing in human potential, and then going, I actually can't believe that this is all we're trying to do. Almost put another little band-aid on and see you next week and see you next week. And
that's right. It's what's interesting is, so I think my mom kind of got me really interested in health and fitness. She's a nurse by trade, and she is coming closer to retirement, and so she just got her personal training license. And I don't know what she's going to do with it. It's going to probably do some personal training as she goes into retirement. But we were watching, in Columbus, Ohio, we watched the Ohio State Buckeyes football team, every Saturday. So they were over at the house, and we had noticed, and she knows that I'm into this, and she's heard things about it, and I've explained some things, and why we believe that these principles work and how they do work. And so she's interested, but she isn't quite sold on it, right?
perfect.
Because
Skips,
it's not
good place to
it
be.
yeah, it's not, yeah, exactly. So we were watching the football game, and there was a healthy 19-year-old young man who went across the field to catch the ball, and he fell, and it didn't look like he fell awkwardly or there was some major trauma, but then he was down for the count, and he had some knee injury where he had to get carted off the field. And both my mom and I were sitting there watching. I said, if um, that fall had
Was the fall a contact or non-contact?
it was a non-contact.
Okay, so that's, if you
Yeah, it was a non-contact, and they kept
19-year-old, that's embarrassing.
replaying it over and over and over again. And we looked, and I said, what, why do you think
They were
he
probably
injured
going, I
himself?
wonder what angle the sniper got him from.
Yeah. Well, it's like, well, probably there's probably something there in the event that didn't see that he tweaked it or turned it wrong or something along those lines. I said, well, um, I think that injury happened a couple weeks ago and maybe further back because there was improper movement techniques, improper breathing techniques that he has been using as a pattern for possibly years that led to that non-contact injury. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you hear me talking about squeezing my butt when I walk. If they could find a way to make their breathing and movement patterns properly, things like that would probably never happen. And I said, it could happen. Trauma is different.
You still have to have
But
the probably word on it, absolutely, because we never say,
yeah,
"Oh, this is how it will happen." But we do know that when teams start using this and it's beyond just rubbing points. It's truly understanding what they're doing and why they're doing it. Because you don't want
right,
someone who just does the like rubbing points and doing some breathing while you're in front of them telling them to do it. You actually need to remember same principles apply when you're on the field. When you're running in open space to go catch a ball, and what's his brain doing? His brain was already switched off because it was going, "Oh my God, I hope I catch the ball. Oh my God,
yes,
if I do catch the ball, maybe I can go score a touchdown." And at no point is he even present to his system. And
that's what.
coach will
Yeah,
probably go, "Hey, that's the kid that so often we're saying, hey, 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 focus," because he switches off, and the switching off is a physiology thing. It's not like he's just a silly kid and it happens. It's part of the physiological strategy that the body's developed for whatever reason. And at the same time, it's created the very vulnerability that you're identifying, that at the point where his foot hit the ground and everything should have engaged and held, something said, "Whoa, I'm sorry, I'm out of here." And suddenly you've got a knee joint left completely vulnerable and open, with ground reaction forces driving up, momentum going over, and gravity squeezing them all together. And you go, "Good luck, buddy."
exactly. And the what I think is so important, and what I've found is important for me when I do this, is repetition and habit. And the more frequently I do this to myself, activate myself, the less I have to think about engaging certain muscles or walking in a certain pattern. It becomes automatic, it becomes a habit. So, um, if you tell a receiver, hey, listen, you're less likely to get injured if you uh, use these muscles to fire when you're breathing or walking or running, then they would go out there and think about that, and then they wouldn't think about catching the ball. However, if this has become a habit and a something of repetition, then they can actually focus on making the catch because their body's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. In fact, they probably do it better. They probably wouldn't fall after the catch. They probably get some extra plays. And what's
And
cool
there
about
actually,
this?
sorry, there are two components in there that are important. And one is what you've identified, which is one, them actually being aware what are the right structures that should be firing. And
Yeah,
then two, with the activations, is actually to help the body actually fire those things. Because if we just give you an instruction, you might be able to access, let's say, your glutes. But if the neural firing is shut down and you're in a cheat pattern, you're going to use your cheat pattern to fire your glutes. But if we, like consciously give you good instruction, because the way we use our language is incredibly important
yes,
on outcomes. But also, and then we put the neural firing right through the activations, through the awareness, through the breath. Then suddenly, that player doesn't have to think about anything because it's so normal.
exactly. And if you take it off the field and into business or life or whatever, I found that I think one of our earlier conversations, I was asking you, what comes first, the slouched over physiology or the fight with the person on customer service? Where you get so angry and frustrated, and it's like that's to me was a good chicken and egg type question because I started to become more aware of what my physiology was, and I feel like I have more control over my physiology than I do my environment. I think that's everyone would say that. whether they are,
No, you see, now that's interesting. Everyone should say that.
they have
Should say
more.
that would be common sense, would be, actually, I have more control over this than all the crap that's going on out there. But yet you go and look at how many people their life strategy is about controlling the environment, which obviously right now in the world is the most ridiculous thing you can do, because your environment is so far out of your control. And you'd go, but this is the only thing I can control. Yeah, but if we'd had this conversation, like let's say we were doing the interview 3 months ago before we'd started this, you might be going, well, the way I control my environment is, and now you're going,
Yeah,
hang on a minute. It's obvious I'm the thing that I've got to take control of. And it doesn't have to mean like I become robotic. It becomes the word you've been using a lot, which is about self-awareness. It's aware of self. What am I doing? And the thing is that one of the big principles that you will have heard in all of the teachings is kind of meet the tissue where it's at, meet your client where they're at.
yes.
But the world does that to us too. So if I'm shut down and pissed off, guess what? The world is going to meet me at my shut down and pissed off place and raise me. And I'm going to push it back. And now we've got two angry people and nothing happens. Well, someone gets punched if it's Mike Tyson.
Yeah. Well, and that, and I don't know
if you just don't do that.
And that's the, I don't know how much, we've talked a lot behind the scenes about where you want to take BeActivated, but the one question is like, where are you? Do you know where you're at right now? And is it a good time to activate or not? And that has been a question I've been asking myself a lot more frequently, and I'm glad I am, because the more I ask myself the question, that's more when I'm taking my temperature to figure out what's going on. Wait a minute, what's going on? And
no, but you don't have to take your temperature, because every shop you go into does it for you.
oh,
Come on.
I set you up for that one. That's the truth. But I there's a lot of questions where, I was on a call with another client yesterday, and the election came up, because I don't know when we'll end up posting this video, but today's the day after the election. We still don't have a clear-cut winner. And I was talking to her yesterday, and she said, if my candidate doesn't win, I am going to be furious. I can't imagine what the next 4 years will be like. And I just kind of looked and I wondered, boy, you are giving a lot of your power away to whoever this person is going to be. What difference is it really going to make? And have you ever had a president that you didn't vote for win? Everyone would probably, that's been alive for the last 20 years would say yes.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Well, eventually,
did your life
just get
suck?
on with it.
Yeah, it's an opportunity regardless. And so, that's the strategy I've got. Of course, I have someone that I would prefer to be president, but whoever wins is not going to determine how the next 4 years of my life is going to be.
But this same conversation, you're going to find as your kids get older, maybe you're already having these conversations, is at the end of the year, they discover who their teacher next year is. Yes. Oh my God, I've got so-and-so. It's going to be such a good year. This is amazing. Or it's tough. And your summer holidays are screwed in that moment, because that's what they're thinking about in the background is, I've got that teacher. And that teacher has now got, because you guys have these ridiculously long summer holidays, like 3.5 months or something.
Right.
So for 3.5 months, your kid is thinking about the crap teacher they're going to have. So even if the teacher is friggin' amazing, they've got 3.5 months of patterning in the neural system up against them.
Man, I tell you, I never even thought about that, but that patterned behavior starts pretty early, doesn't it?
It's what pops into my head is I was away traveling, and Matt and his rugby team, I don't know, he must have been about 10 years old actually. And unfortunately, coach that wasn't getting the boys to play as a team, he was almost rewarding the individuals, which meant individuals went and did stuff, which meant the team suffered. So they kept losing. And the one morning, so the rugby can sometimes in winter be played 8 o'clock in the morning where it's friggin' freezing and storming. And Amy was driving Matt, and he's like, ugh, ugh. And she was like, wow, this is not going to be good. And she did something amazing. She said, hey, let's go through your team. Oh, my team. Oh, what a bunch of idiots. He wouldn't have said anything worse. He was 10 years old.
Yeah.
Probably would have, but she said, no, let's just think of one good thing about each person in your team. And some of the boys, it was easy. You know, these are great. But some of the guys like, him. But what's something really good? Well, he tackles really hard. Oh, well, that's good. You know, you might not like him, but he tackles really hard. And literally they drove to school and the rugby game and went through each player. And Amy, the feedback, because I'm always like online to know what's going on. And she went, he was different. But then he took that different to his team. And that particular game, they played as a team and they won. Whereas they'd been a bunch of individuals. And you can go, was it Matt? I don't know. But somebody arrived with a different mindset, a different attitude, saw something different. And it just so happened the outcomes were different.
You know, this is pretty cool. So my strategy this morning coming in was I was going to sit at my desk, get really quiet, do some activation, and then come up with a great question for the question portion of this.
Good luck.
And then I came up with a question, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I like that or not, because it's got to be a good one, right? So, but the idea behind it, and this kind of plays perfectly with it, was,
Actually, and this is also the theme. You were the one that let me know that Sean Connery had passed.
That's right.
And so thank you for that. And but in honor of him and Highlander, for anyone who's old enough to know Highlander, the questions are like Highlander. There can be only one, which is. And if you guys don't know what the reference to Highlander is, go look it up.
That's right.
I'm not going to tell you, but Highlander's iconic series of movies, and Sean was in the second one.
That's right.
The original one is, you see, I know all these things. Connie MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. There can be only one. Just like the question. You see where all the wisdom comes from.
I think we're going to have to make a meme with that. That's right. The beauty of it is I know how beneficial daily activation is for myself and what it's doing for my children. And what I've noticed is, when things seemed, and I was just kind of doing a little inventory of my business over the since I've been self-employed almost 5 years. Where have things gone right and where have things gone wrong? And it really has come down to when I kind of flip on the autopilot switch and just deal with stress, right? As opposed to reconnecting, becoming fully aware of what's going on and settling myself. And what I've realized now that I am doing this, especially, when you sit in front of a desk all day, it's terrible for your physiology to begin with. So, breaking up my day, where I had been putting off midday exercise. So I do work out in the morning, because this is awesome, because if I start my day with exercise, the rest of my day goes much better than when I don't. Why is that? Well, that is a habit that I have put in place where it allows me to get connected with what's going on, be a little bit more self-aware, take the time to get my body warmed up, and then the day goes great. Now, I'm finding that I am a person that um, obviously I must love getting stressed out over the smallest things because I keep doing it over and over again. But the breaking up my day with more exercise allows me to just, you know, if I do it for 30 minutes or more, it really shuts my brain off of the things that maybe I'm putting such a narrow focus on and not seeing all of the possibilities that arise from a situation that may be stressful. A stressful situation could
But
be
I think,
a
and
massive
we're
opportunity.
seeing a huge amount of that in the world. That the people literally they go into this mode, and there's the problem, and the solution also has to lie within this corridor. And it's
Yes,
like, good friggin' luck with that, because in this
right.
corridor you can go that way. That's called fight. You can come this way. That's called flight, or you can stand there with big eyes staring, and that's called freeze. And that's the
Those are
problem.
your options. Yep.
So that's your options. It's not like you go, and maybe the answer's just outside there, but you can't get out there, and
Yeah.
so someone who's not in that corridor is looking, going, dude, are you freaking stupid? It's so obvious, you know? And like when that,
Everyone else around you can see it. Yes.
which
Yes.
then pisses you off even more and narrows your corridor even more, because now you want to punch someone and run away at the same time.
Yeah. It's it's the it really comes to answer the question of when is the time to activate, because if you find yourself in that hallway, in that corridor, just stop what you're doing, right? The answer is limited, and you will choose an the answer to the stressful situation that's similar to your other previous bad decisions that you've made because it's familiar, right?
Yeah,
So
and then you're going to end up in the same outcome, and then your cycle is, and that's the whole thing. It's like, we're not saying that's the wrong choice, but if you can only go this way, that's not a choice, you know.
it's not a choice, right? Yeah.
It kind of sounds
You
like
think
what
you're
we
making
hear
it you
around the
think you're
world.
making a decision.
Dude, that's what we think about your elections. You call that a choice? Sorry,
That's
that's what
right.
the world's
That's
thinking.
right.
And it's like, it's kind of, it's really symbolic of how the world has gone. It's kind of, this is it. Really? And imagine we could take a step back and go, guys, there's a far better way, and everyone gets served. I don't know what it is.
Yes.
We all
Well,
wish we knew what that answer was, but it's so linked in our physiology. And the thing is that, sorry, I just want to pull this in, because we could be talking about you as an individual sitting at your desk, but you too are connected with people online in a virtual space.
yeah.
And so if you can stay dominant in your corridor, you will pull others into your corridor, and you will either fight with them because they disagree, or you'll sit in agreement, and you guys will agree on the corridor. Now you're stuck in the corridor, all of you as a group. And we
Wow.
see
Yeah.
this over and over within group dynamics. And when, in the good old days, when I used to help one team hack another, don't do that no more. I'm a good guy now. Part of the thing was, can we get their group mindset here? Because then the team forgets what they're here to do, all the strategies, all of the stuff, and they just want to smash somebody. And that's the easiest way to beat people.
Yes.
And so you take a
Well,
group dynamic.
boy, think about it. Isn't that what corridor the our society has been forced into?
Yeah.
Uh,
But so on the field, so let's use this
yeah.
example. What does it take to disrupt that? It takes one player. It would be good if it was the captain, but often it's not. One player not to buy in to the corridor that can then pull everybody else out. So it becomes a reference point again. It's somebody on the outside goes, guys, that's not where we need to be. And sometimes they go and do something exceptional, and everyone like wakes up out of their I don't know, we would say doffness. Doff is stupid. But this like fuzzy headed, and whoa, hey, we have got a game going on. And so there's a term that I always like, and sometimes it is the captain, but most of the time it's not. And it's what we call a meneer, which is a Mr. Like Mr. Tim. But meneer to me is the silent leader. And the silent leader is the one that can pull a team out of the fire, out of the corridor. And the silent leader is the one that can take them in. So we don't hack teams. I sound so evil because you can see I'm smiling because I've got a history of playing these games of, but you hack the meneer, you hack the silent leader, and they will single-handedly destroy their own team.
Well, it's
but because we're good people, but because we're good people, we find the silent leader. We help them identify their role within the team. We help them identify how to become resilient and resilience is about understanding your threat, which would be if I'm the silent leader, I am the threat. I'm the greatest strength of the team, and therefore I'm also the greatest weakness. And it's amazing when you can patch up that hole, how then that person is primarily lifts and drives the team.
It's.
Is your brain just a little bit? I hope so.
I feel like you've hacked my brain because, the last two kind of points we've discussed, my question was going to be, I see the benefits of regular movement and activation on myself. I've seen it now, how it works in my family. And when I've even spread it out to my family, I've been getting so much benefit. When we talk about your circle, where it's the star, right? And I'm wondering, and this is all for personal benefit, but everyone benefits. It's how can we leverage the group to do almost like group activation. Like I feel like there's this strength in numbers opportunity with the group that you've developed.
Get a hold of the community on one virtual space and do a specific.
Well, maybe, but I see
activation.
Yeah, possibly, but I see when we talk about the team concept, where it's the goal is to win the championship. Right? The goal is to win the championship. So if we're all self-aware and we're all doing this, then we will all win. You've actually proven it, right? So when you have a diverse group, like the community, where some people work with Parkinson's patients, some people work with businesses, some people work with teams, some people work with children, some people work with asthmatics, some people work with people with autism.
Some people work with horses.
See, and the list is possibly endless. So if there is an opportunity there
we haven't quite figured out how to activate the goldfish yet. But we do
goldfish are always activated.
Environment in the water.
Well, it's like, okay, one, what would I think, we're all driven by.
I just need to check here. Are you asking me a question now? Have you already jumped phases that you've stopped having a conversation?
This isn't the real question, but it's
just checking.
It's adding to the interview.
Okay.
But I guess the idea would be, how can you? Maybe it is the question. How can what would be the direction or intention of the group in order to do a mutual activation, and what outcomes could you expect? Because I think we're all over the place. We all have different goals and different things that we would.
One of the things, the interesting question, but far too vague. And so
yes,
anything
I haven't quite nailed it down yet.
Yeah, you see, the thing is that anything vague is no answer is appropriate, because this is so like if someone gives you vague data, you can't solve the problem. So you've got to
Correct.
get clear on your, and this is also because this is how the neural system works. The brain wants clarity. It wants, it wants you to say, go this way, go this way, go that way, go that way. It doesn't say, want you to go, should I go this way or that way? Because then it'll do nothing. But a lot of people, and I'm finding like, you can see it in our conversations. Like there are times when I'm going, okay, I'm ready. How about we do this and that? And then about a week later, I'm sitting there going, there's this, but there's also that.
Yeah, yeah.
If you have too many options, you actually end up doing nothing. And so, the thing that I always keep in the back of my head, and I'm reminding myself saying this, is that decision, the definition, it means to cut off all other options. So I always say to people, I don't care what your answer is, just give me an answer. It's a yes or no. It doesn't matter which one, but until you know the answer, you can't do anything. And
Well,
I was a waiter for 8
yeah.
years. There's nothing worse than there's somebody sitting going, oh, that looks really nice. Oh, that also looks nice. Which one would you recommend? So I always knew what I would recommend, and I would be clear about it, and I'd make sure I'd take them to that place.
Yes.
Because when you've got, let's say, 10 people at a table and one person's doing that, you can see everybody else's experience is going, I want to just, can we not just get on with it? And they're like,
yeah.
But that, and that unfortunately plays out in life. It's like the inability to make a decision. Now, can you imagine that your kid, your 19-year-old kid running to catch a ball has a couple of thoughts in mind. And it's about, okay, I'm going to catch it. Crap, I hope I catch it. Okay, now we've got hesitation. But once I've caught it, do I step and move, or do I go and take the hit? And so your brain's still stuck in strategy rather than implementation. And then as our ground reaction forces, momentum, and all the stuff comes together, the brain, sorry, I was busy trying to decide what we were actually going to do. Sorry about that. Oh, you're injured. We can do none of it.
This is perfect because the wide, vague question shows me where I'm at, right? Where I feel like I understand the benefits of self-activation. I understand the benefits of, doing it with my family. And because myself and my family now have a similar goal, right? And then to take it even wider, I'm not there yet. So, because if I was, I would have the perfect question formulated, and there would be an answer for it. So,
no, maybe no. But maybe the perfect question is one that doesn't yet have an answer. That's what would make it a good question, because it's not one that's already been considered. To ask a question, you see, now I can hear your brain going, oh fuck, now what am I going to ask? If you ask a question that's already been considered, well, somewhere out there the information is already there, so it's a wasted question. You get your head chopped off for no real reason, in Highlander, obviously.
In Highlander, yeah.
but the idea is a really good question is one that makes us have to reassess what we think. And
Yes.
and I'd love to say that every time a question comes up, like my own questions, they're going to be like that. They're not. But the thing is, those are the questions, which is why when we had the conversation about a week ago about what's the right time to activate, and I said to you, now that's a great question. That's a great question, because you will find that 50 people answer that. None of those answers are going to be the same.
Right.
And the thing is that they're all right and they're all wrong. But if you believe that your answer is the only answer, then you are in a corridor.
Yep. Nice.
But if you realize that yours is one option, but there's also this 50 million times round and up and down, then you go, this is the option I've chosen. But if you go, this is how it's done and this is all there is, well, then you're taking, yes, this is when you get the wacky Doug. Then what you're doing is you're taking an expanded philosophy and technique into a narrow corridor. And the only thing you can do is expand into the corridor. You can't make the corridor wider because it doesn't go wider until you realize there are other places, other options, other ways.
Mm-hmm.
I hope your brain's hurting because mine's hurting just a little bit.
That's right. I mean, that's pretty good, man.
But that's why, because you got me excited and around that. So, and maybe this will be the week when we launch it. But so I sent you a whole lot of pictures with what's a good time to activate. And they were all different strategies, different places, big wave about a crash, saber-toothed tiger chasing, one that looked very up in the clouds, and you're like, wow, that's cool. And Amy was like, whoa, that feels very dark and very like old religion. And it could all of it could be. And so when is the right time? Well, and I say this, like, why that one was like jumped up, because I looked at a whole lot of clouds and I was thinking like, nice, the sun above the clouds. But I found a real dark one that looks gloomy with a little bit of light. When's a good time to activate? Actually, because in our history, we've had enough people tell us about their desire for suicide as a way out. And somehow this work has found them and it allowed them a different way. And when people share that, it's like, can you, how do you not drop to your knees and go, wow, thank you. So actually, when you're in your darkest moment, that's not the time to do nothing. That's the time to do something. And if what it is put your fingers on top of your head and hold your Teletubby point and breathe, and that did it. That gave you a choice. Sweet. I do remember the first time I did the Teletubby point with you on a Zoom, I suddenly realized, dude, you got goofed in like 10 seconds. You like was space cadet.
It's weird though. When I do it, see, like I just noticed, like I kind of
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I can't even talk. But I guess I don't.
Have you noticed the world is slowing down?
Yeah.
I seem to, like, it almost feels like I'm moving a bit, but I'm not. I'm actually standing really still.
Like it feels like my eyes just kind of like glaze over. Yeah. And it's like I had a glass of wine or something.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And it's a Teletubby glass of wine. But you see, all of these things are like, so imagine you didn't have time to run off and do half an hour of exercise. In fact, you didn't even have 1 minute to run a quick activation sequence. The question would be, could you pop your hand on top of your head and take 3 breaths? Hell, you could even be on a call and they would just think you had an itchy head. Imagine you did a Teletubby with a butt squeeze. Whew, what could happen? Answer, I don't know. But until we try it, until we experiment and go, what happens if that becomes your strategy? Because remember that when we chatted about that, we actually were chatting about that for your son. And when you took it to him, he was like, hey, dude, back off. I don't like that. Awesome. And that's perfect. Because we're never saying one strategy for everyone, one philosophy, one framework, but the strategy is for the individual. And so the art and the science of this work is figuring out what are the right strategies to make you, using your language, optimized.
Yeah, trial and error. And what's interesting is,
well, not trial and error, but test and retest.
Okay.
Because then you know when it's successful or what's not, and that's why we have to build that in. So if I go up to let's say a group of kids and I say, hey guys, just follow me, rub this, rub that, da 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 da. How you doing? They'll go, dude, you're really wacky. That was quite entertaining, but nothing. But if you give them something to do first, let's say, spin around 20 times until you fall over, and then we do the whole activation sequence and spin it again. They go, whoa, when I fell, it wasn't nearly as hard. Oh, awesome. And people might be listening to it. That's a really weird, would you really use that? Probably. But it could be they jump. It could be they, I don't know, you punch your friend in the face and the second time, see if you punch them harder. I don't know. No, we better take that one. For anyone who heard that, no, that's not a good option.
Put your disclaimer out there.
Doug's told me to
do not do it. Yeah.
Do not do it. It's kind of like the interview with JL. Like,
yeah,
guys, we're talking about a squat with 1,000 pounds. Just because we're saying belly breathing and 1,000 pounds doesn't mean we're saying go do it. What we're saying is there are a friggin' lot of steps that go along that path. Right now, it's not possible, but we do believe it is possible. But we have to manage each phase of that, because each time you see, the thing is with what we're talking about. So you activate, you get really good. And what happens, it allows your circle of influence to expand and grow, which allows, therefore, the environments you get to play in to expand and grow. Eventually, you will reach a point in your expansion where there will be resistance and pushback. That's your next layer of activation, because now you once again are at a place where the environment is trying to close you down. And that is when you've got to activate again. Why? Because that's going to continue the expansion. But if you go, oh, I've activated once, woohoo, you may be lucky, but at some point you have to hit resistance. And you know, people say, hey, dude, Doug, you stupid. You keep injuring yourself. Yeah, I'm looking for that edge of resistance. I enjoy that. I find I learn more there than when I sit and go, wow, I just feel awesome, and I'm going to play in my safe little playpen.
Well, see, isn't that and that's kind of the. Remember, you asked me to send you my, asked me if I could draw.
Yeah, right? I think you might have to drop it in your beautiful picture on, like, right in this moment.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting. Let's see if we can.
Oh, you've actually got it. Drop it down. Drop it down.
Oh wait, hold on. Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to be able to see it.
Behind, hang on. Yeah, okay, I'll find it.
The concept was, how can you, when is the time to activate? And what you're saying is, when you hit that point of resistance, you got it? Yep. When you hit that point of resistance, this is where people are in the corridor, right? Where there's only a limited amount of options, forward, backward, or frozen. And then you can get up to the next level. This is where, the learning happens, and where the difference is. So then there's this plateau here, and what I've got written is the first part of the plateau is, hey, listen, I've activated, I've made it over the threshold, things are great, life is good, everything is going exactly how I want it to now. And what'll happen is, if you get satiated and satisfied, like you ate a big Thanksgiving turkey or a whole pizza by yourself, and you sit on the couch, you feel like shit, right? Okay, well, that's this part.
A whole pizza by yourself? Who does that?
It happens.
The entire nation, apparently.
Yeah. So then what happens is you get into the spot where it's boredom, depression, things aren't working out.
And and not just that. You see, the thing is, once you've gone up that level, you also get to see more now. You have a greater awareness of what else is out there. A whole lot of the things that you were dealing with before are now out the way, and now you start noticing other things. So it's not like your problems are gone. They are just different, and they are like bigger problems. They are, they're further out in that circle of influence. And so the beauty of what you've drawn is that's a nice little, like this is how it can go. The reality is, sometimes we drop down. Sometimes something happens, you're 3 layers up, you're going absolutely fantastic, and the pushback is so huge that it knocks you even lower. And then you're sitting there going, yeah, but I did all the work. Awesome. This is that time. This is that moment where you really get to test yourself, your resolve, your commitment, your why, your inspiration, your what drives you. And then when you bring that into the work, we find that, like, fear that's so hardwired into our system, you can be the most incredible athlete. You can have done, you can pick up cars, or you can run faster, but if you haven't done your work, it's those are the things that drop you in an instant. And everything that you've gone out to do, everything you've worked so hard to achieve, can get taken. And so often when those situations happen, those are the ones where people don't come back from, because they go, the highs are high and the lows are friggin' low, and they never ever developed a strategy to come out of that. So we don't mind
it's capturing
people
that
dropping
awareness,
down.
right?
And this is a huge thing. We don't mind if you drop down into a place and you're sad, or I'm depressed, or I'm angry, or I'm mad. What is mad, glad, sad, bad? I don't know. There's a whole list of it. It's okay to go there. When you get stuck, that's when there's a problem. So if you're stuck too low, or you actually get stuck too high, and people would go, what are you talking about? Well, these are the people that irritate the hell out of us, because everything's always sunshine. And the problem is that they carry with them a big bloody black bag full of shit, and everyone can see it, but they won't. And so, we want to be able to move through these ranges with an ease and a recognizing, hey, I'm having a crappy day. Now that I know it, what am I going to do with it? I can choose to indulge my crappy day. And if you go, oh, I can cheer you up. No, this is my crappy day. I want to feel crappy. It's a choice. Or I can go, yeah, help me out. Or I've already got my way out. The choice is what gives us the power. That's the power within our physiology. That is like imagine a coach that says to the players, here is this is the game plan. This is the strategy. But at the same time, he says, ladies, notice how non-sexist this was. Ladies, if you see an opportunity that is not part of the game plan, I believe in you enough, go for it. Here's a framework. And if you can see something outside of it, but if the coach says, this is the framework, do not deviate, you make a mistake, you step out of it, I'm going to whack you, I'm going to scream at you, I'm going to humiliate you. Yeah, we know all this. We see it all the time on the side of the field. But if you can create a belief within your team, a belief that, somebody fails and nobody on the team goes, oh, arse, because you know that in that system, it's allowed, because that's the culture that's created. Mistakes done with the intention to make the team better is highly acceptable. It's a worthy thing. You go look at all the big games, the games that have inspired us in any sport. It's when the framework is so good, the foundation is so good that it inspires you. And then that allows someone to rise even higher. And then they do something amazing. And they will always turn around and not go, hell, look how clever I am. They will go, I could only do that because the team gave me the possibility of doing that. Or the coach allowed us to play with that.
Well, it's have you done something consistently over and over and over again, where it becomes second nature and a habit, where it's almost a process of the autonomic system, where you can let things roll and then create and be creative and do unique things and expand beyond the
limitations of being human.
Yeah, the dailies, you know what I mean? So it's I think that just the self-awareness of where you're at. I feel like shit. I'm feeling great. I've hit a wall. I'm in a corridor. Like, those are the opportunities that typically don't present themselves unless you are doing activities similar to, like, for me, it's, activation gives me the amount of time that I need to think about, okay, where are we at? And I don't know that everyone needs to do it.
To actually notice, oh crap, I'm in a corridor.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and the thing is that, like, just your common, like everybody knows this, that 50% of solving a problem is defining the problem effectively.
That's right.
Knowing you're in a corridor is kind of useful. If you don't know you're in a corridor, you wonder why your left and your right ain't working. It's because in a corridor they don't exist. Forward and back are the only options.
That's right.
And so recognizing where you're at allows you to go, oh, okay, this is where I'm at. Am I going to find a strategy in this, or am I going to step out of the corridor and do more?
So yeah, for me, at where I'm at now, and this is what's so exciting about this type of work is when I do my activations, I use that time to figure out where the hell I'm at. It's um, and it really opens up these opportunities and possibilities for me to see things that have always been there, but my focus isn't so narrow where you try to fix a problem when you're still in the problem. So you got to come outside the problem to find the solutions. And what's interesting is, if I'm doing that for that right now,
is it an Einstein quote that says you can't solve a problem with the same brain that created it?
That's it. That's exactly it. And he's 100% right. Then the next thing for me is the question would be,
okay, so are you now getting to a question? Because I feel like you're like really crossing and challenging my boundaries here.
I know if I just didn't use the word question and I just said it, it probably would have been fun, but I frame it up too much. Well, I think that my question that I have is not a good question because it's something that it's individual.
We're not going to discuss the merits of your question just yet. How's that? Because not only have you not asked the question, but you're even judging it before you do it. Now think about this. This is the kid running on the field to catch the ball who's got all of this, should I, would I, could I, should I, what, and the question never gets asked. So I think this is a very good time for us to say the interview is done. Thank you very much. And in 2 seconds, we'll be back for this incredible, earth-shattering, unbelievable question that you're going to blow us all away with. The entire community is watching, listening with bated breath, because I know I am.